none of us have actually spoken to each other before this session, so it's going to be completely extempore. Well, from what we discussed today, I understand there are different technologies that are available. Sumit, of course, spoke about Dali and the future of Dali, and from Lutron, you spoke about how Josh was kind of taking over. Okay, let me start with you. How is Josh different from Alexa?
It's a great question, and the major differentiating factor is with Alexa and your voice assistant devices that you have today, there are certain phrases that have to be dictated in a certain manner, right, to achieve the required task. With Josh and with the direction we're heading into something that's called artificial intelligent voice command, right? So it's kind of like, I don't know if there's any Marvel fans, it's kind of like Jarvis from Iron Man. You just have a conversation, right, with the voice assistant in a more natural speech environment rather than memorizing turn on X250 or turn on 20%.
So your processor is kind of on an IoT platform, you could say, which kind of can do all kinds of dimming of lights, whether it's Dali or digital or analog or whatever, right?
Absolutely, yep.
Okay. All right. Mr. Patel, I wanted, from the presentation today, I wanted to understand what was your overall view on the subject. You did speak on it, so I wanted to understand your view on it.
Well, my view was, it was very ably explained that the entire IoT market as it stands today is about $4.5 billion worth. And as the gentleman Dawoodi said, it was pre-COVID thing. Now, post-COVID, these figures are going to dwindle quite significantly. However, I have a viewpoint that we can still achieve this target if we go a step beyond on IoT. Instead of just focusing on lighting alone, which is at 4.5 billion, in fact, the entire IoT market as it stands today, the forecast by Berkshire Hathaway is about $27.7 billion. So collectively, if we can extend the portfolio of IoT along with lighting to temperature to shift from user interface to user experience. Now we have made progress in user experiences, but there are several clicks. You click one, a menu opens, a drop down menu. We have already started working on a user experience with zero click. We are working on a technology where a Bluetooth embedded chip would now start talking with an IoT one, thereby giving you a user experience as far as, workstation management system or a visitor management system, a parking management system. And in turn, this is going to benefit the real estate industry big time. And for this, taking this next step, we partnered with a company called 3CDN, and a great innovation has been made. So my take on this is, yes, great technology, let's extend it a little bit. And for that, lighting is lighting has covered the entire range of sensors, the smart sensors. They can become the key data collection point.
True. I mean, one of the interesting aspects of what I noticed from all of it. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed out. Alan has joined virtually from there. Sorry, Alan, you spoke about intelligent buildings, and why is it that the data collection is more and more coming in from lighting sensors rather than sensors which are controlling other devices? Why is lighting become the forefront of IoT and intelligent buildings today?
Great question. Good afternoon, everyone. I think from my perspective, it's because lighting sensors are one of the most common sensors in the building. If you think about, you have a lighting sensor in almost every room and almost every cupboard. And with digitalization, it means that we can access data from those sensors. We're very used to working with wired technology, but now with wireless mesh technology, and I was watching the Dali presentations earlier. With now wireless technology coming, we have the ability to have mesh. And because wireless lighting sensors are so common, it makes sense that they're the gateways to data. So one of the start points of designing a building must be to understand who is in the building, where are they, and how many people are in there. And we can derive that from lighting sensors. So I think it's just a simple fact that sensors are one of the most common sensors, if not the most common sensor, in every smart building.
All right. Karim, you spoke on a topic which was partly PoE, and it's a hybrid kind of a system which you spoke about. There's always this debate about PoE versus Dali. I have personally looked at PoE as something which is extremely difficult to execute, a lot of cabling. And yes, initially the thought process was good when it came to LiFi and stuff like that, but since that is still not implemented, what is your take on it in terms of PoE versus Dali?
Yeah. No? It's
Yes,
okay? Can you, yeah, now it's working. I would say it's a fine difference. I talked about network-powered lighting, not exclusively about PoE. From the technical point of view, there's a slight difference because PoE, you have two strings. One is for the data, one is for the powering. And network-powered lighting is you have just one string, and the power will be modulated on the data cable itself. But anyway, I think it's a philosophy, how you think. If it's more US driven, if everything is thinking more from the IT infrastructure, then you will go on PoE. Traditionally, we from lighting or so on, we prefer more to be comfortable and take the Dali approach. My take on this is it's a philosophy. It's a philosophy where you are going with. And of course, the opportunities with add-ons on PoE, especially also with the sensoring and the BLE capabilities to add on some analytical services as well. I think this is the benefit in comparison to Dali. Just from the lighting perspective, I think we have to shift a little bit and see the add-ons on the top of that, what you can achieve to analyze the space, for instance, or the built environment.
All right. I would ask you to have your opening thoughts on the subject.
Well, talking about IoT, of course, from my perspective as a lighting consultant, I really think it's one of the interesting advancements that happened in our, let's say, in the history of technology. But it's really very important to embrace this technology in a way that is adaptable to the human need. So human centricity is really a very important aspect. And connecting this fact with of course, the urban development, and not only having it beneficial for lighting, but in a way I really believe that lighting can play a big role because of the fact that in urban developments you need a lot of poles and infrastructure for poles. But as we can see from other presentations that we have seen today about smart poles, integrating these systems together in order to serve the needs of human being, and collecting the data and the information in a way that you can really control the lights in a better way, that you can actually gather data where in certain areas where there's high traffic, gathering these facts from light poles, You can have this billboard flashing out some important information, whether it's a commercial thing or something, you know, to warn you if there is an accident or whatever. All these things really, if they are integrated in the proper way and they are used and specified in a way that it is a human-centric purpose, then IoT will be very successful in our region. But if we are trying to sell this idea in a way that, you know, it's a new technology and just have it like you're having a new iPhone, then it's really, we are going to reach a stage where it's just a very impressive technology which is standing here, but nobody is benefiting from it. And it's only a cache of money taken out from, you know,
Okay.
from our
Well,
expenses and so on.
well, I think from the presentations I saw today, I think this is definitely going to be the future. And
Yeah.
I think lighting is going to play a big role in terms of being the base for as a platform for IoT. Altaf, your opening thoughts on, you've seen all the presentations, and what's your thoughts on IoT and intelligent lighting?
Basically, you know, I'm representing LumiBright, which is, you know, a local manufacturer, and I'm being the founder and CEO. The company is just about 10 years old, and we came in the forefront of the technology shift starting. So we started itself as a, you know, 100% LED-driven company. And being from an IT background, being an IT, you know, engineer, I had the grip from the beginning to understand where the technology is going to merge with IoT. So we anticipated and shifted our gears towards this concept way back, and that helped us to now get in touch with, you know, get in touch base with most of the technologies in. But to be honest, what being a small-scale manufacturer, what we anticipate is something like a, you know, open source cloud system, because technologies are so much complicated, as we are talking about the Dali and other system, the LiFi is coming, and so many things are going around. A lot of clarity issues are happening. So if we could bring down that into an open source way, like, you know, even the ERPs and most complicated softwares, everything has become, you know, open source. For a better example, Android way, if we could bring all these technologies so that even the local integrators, small-scale manufacturers, everybody can integrate based on the type of people. And we were talking about the, you know, human-centric and the people with skin tones and all those, right? So for a global manufacturer, it will be a big-time challenge. And Lutron, you were talking about that IHE is setting up, you know, data which is somewhere in US, and then you get that data based on the ethnicity of the people around there. But then when it comes to Asia, forget about Asia, just come to India, where we are itself is a, you know, a population of one of the largest population in the world, and every 40 kilometers you will find a different people with different ethnicity, different, you know, culture, different language. So I think you should shift that experience center to India, then you'll get a better results. Yeah. So that's my thoughts.
All right.
Yeah.
Alan, your presentation was very, very nice. It was a conceptual presentation. I wanted to understand from you, do you already have a system in place which does an intelligent building solution?
Yeah, we have a couple of solutions in place. One of our solutions is a wireless mesh solution based on lighting sensors, as we were discussing earlier. And it's using artificial intelligence in each light fitting. So each light fitting is learning who is there, how long have they been there, and it's passing that data to the other light fittings. And the reason we've done this is we were thinking about the lifetime of a building. What we tend to do in our industry, sorry to say, what we tend to do in our industry today is design to minimums, minimum thresholds. So we started to think about a building lifetime could be 25, 30, 40, 50 years. and it requires to be updated, maybe recommissioned. So our mesh solution is always learning about the occupancy and the usage of the space, and it's always optimizing that space over the lifetime of the building. And I think that's where I see the industry going more and more today, is that in the early design phase of buildings, in the concept design phase of buildings, we start to think about the usage of the space by the people using it. And we start to think about what would happen if the building is sold, re-tenanted, refurbished, and what technologies can we build in now to enable that building to be always optimized, always updated. And I think that's where lighting sensors help, mesh technology helps, and also Dali. Dali is heading down the road now of multi-vendor interoperability. So lots of different manufacturers working together, which means design is easier, which means choice over the lifetime of the building is easier. So yeah, we have some solutions, I know other people do, and what we should aim for now in design is think about the lifetime of the building and think about hybrid solutions, both wired and wireless, depending on the application within that building.
Got it. Sumit, let me come back to you now. You spoke about the wireless Dali Plus, which is going to be the future according to you. Me as a lighting consultant, I would, of course, embrace Dali, because for me, lighting is more important than all of the other intelligence, you know. Because one of the things which I noticed when I was doing a lot of other projects with POE was lighting was actually getting neglected, you know. The building was becoming more intelligent, but lighting was becoming more and more neglected. It was literally a technology-driven system, but scene settings and those basic requirements of lighting, that was not being met. And that was one of the reasons why even, for example, if I would retrofit a conference room, for example, I changed the type of lights. If I have a POE system, what happens is there is an existing driver with a set current and voltage in it, and then I need to look for light fixtures which can meet that module. That's one of the big issues which I foresaw with a POE system. Now tell me, from a Dali perspective, how easy is it for, one of the other issues which I've noticed with Dali is communication with the IBMS. The data collection is there, but apparently the pushing of data into the IMS system is not live, like the case of POE. So where is Dali Plus going?
Okay, so when we talk about the Dali Plus part, it's all IP-based systems that we talk about. Now, IP-based means your BMS system has got an IP address and your Dali system has got an IP address. Now, there are multiple ways of integrating with the BMS part. The one of is the backnet protocol or your live real-time APIs. Within backnet, there is one concept called as COV, change of value. Now that COV is a real-time data exchange with the other system. One of the example is that your sensor in the room, there is nobody in the room. Somebody enters into the room, the sensor senses the occupancy. Now as soon as the occupancy is sensed, the sensor says there is a value change that has happened. Now once that has happened, it is broadcasted to the backnet protocol. Now whoever has subscribed to it, be it your HVAC system, BMS system or any system, just collects that data and takes the next action. Now if we talk about the lag, now that lag is not there. It's a real-time data integration which is happening, and that's happening on your local infrastructure level, wherein none of your cloud or your servers, local servers or anything comes into the picture. Your sensor senses it, it gets to the controller, the Dali controller, which is the hardwired or the wireless device there, and as soon as it gets it, it publishes it to all the devices which is in the loop. So that way it is a real-time communication which is happening.
So you mean to say your IoT system can really refine the data and give feedback to the IBM
Exactly,
system?
exactly.
For it to...
And even without any lag in between.
Got it. Tariq, from your end, I wanted to check this JORS system. Now, this is something which can be used in a small space. when you're looking at a larger commercial space, like a 1 million square feet or 100,000 square feet space, how does this work?
So voice control, to your point, right? It's intended to be used in smaller spaces where from a single point you're sitting down, you want to control multiple elements that directly affect you, right? Once we start to talk on a much larger scale, impacts or implications of voice control, I mean, as an application, yes, you can have it, right? But would it be necessarily beneficial? In my opinion, not so much, because once you start to exceed, you're talking about campus-sized projects or large buildings, right? You want a central platform, right, that gives you the visibility to all of these different floors or your buildings, right, from a central location that allows you to control them, right? Now, how you control it, manually or through voice, that's entirely up to you, right? The capability is there, but the practicality of it, I would say, not so much.
As a company, are you also looking at wireless DALI and systems like that?
So as Lutron, we do, and we've had for a very long time a wireless solution, be it keypad control or sensors, for actually the past 5 to 10 years. And yes, they are compatible with DALI, load types, phase switching, dimming. So they're protocol agnostic because they speak to the system, which then the system speaks to the respective lighting loads.
All right. Mr. Patel, coming back to you. Now, you know this region pretty well. You've been in this region for a long time. Have you, on real time, executed an IoT-based project in this region?
In fact, as we speak, we are executing a very high-level project in Dubai, which would be when you talk about the parameters that it's addressing to, it would be one of its kind in the Middle East. Yes.
I mean, can you explain a little more about it in terms of how it's progressing, what is it supposed to be doing, and
well,
all
it's
of that?
as I mentioned earlier, it's going to monitor the temperature. It's going to monitor the number of visitors coming in and going out. It's going to monitor the traffic, the parking management systems, and all that. The project is about 3.5 months away from completion. Obviously, I can't reveal much details about it, but overall, it's going to make a positive impact. Now, how far we, as an industry, are able to sustain it will be based on how effectively the data that is collected is utilized.
Right.
Because it's all about data is available. Now, what do you do with that data? So that is something that the landlord, the institution will have to figure it out. Yes, they have certain parameters in mind which they wish to control, but there are many more that they could control and make benefit out of it, not only in terms of finances, but in terms of really bringing well-being in the life of the occupant. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Coming to data collection, one of the big issues which I've noticed with most companies is they want the data to be secure. And this is one big issue, especially companies like Google and Amazon. They do not want, a cloud-based system where all of the data is going to the cloud. So, Karim, I think you also discussed about this. What's your take on it? So, a cloud-based system is something which most companies do not want, because they think the data is not secure. So how do you counter that?
I think also it depends in which area of the world you are, but especially here also in the Middle East, it's very crucial. We had done this experience that the end client insisted on having the authority, the ownership of the data, and then you have to see the right solution. And maybe the optimal solution is not the right solution, but it will definitely give him his ownership of the data, like the network powered system, what I have introduced today, by having this smart director, the server, yeah, and that means at the end of the day, he is the owner of his data. And of course, many companies, what we are observing also, they want also that there is an open API, so they can also feed their data into the system as well. This should be open, and they should also have a part in it, how to write the protocol or define different settings and scenes.
All right. I think we have had a quite lengthy and exhaustive discussion on this. I would, at this point, want to open the session for questions and answers. So, yeah, we are open for questions. Whoever wants to ask a question can raise your hand. Okay, I think that gentleman there.
Yeah, my name is Khalid. We are manufacturer from India, Burj Lexa. My concern, it's not a question, basically a concern with current pandemic, COVID. We all are concerned about our health, more about our health actually. With wireless technologies coming into the building, we are already afraid of having Wi-Fi, mobile network in our home. We switch off our mobile, or it is in our control. We can switch off while sleeping and keep it away. But with lighting and with Dali and so many things, with wireless network, we are going to have so many interference in our personal life. So how the industry is going to take this as a challenge, and this is the concern I have. Either it can be a question,
Well,
somebody can answer.
I think like what Alan explained, you know, the future is the building is designed for you. So if you don't want the lights to be turned on, you can switch it off, you know, or you want to set it to certain... so it's completely adapted to what is your needs from all perspectives. That's the whole idea of IoT and intelligent lighting, you know. So it is not that a software is running it and you cannot override it. There is always an override available. You can always have a touchpad with which you can set whatever is required for your thing. You could do voice commands like Josh, which could, you know, turn off the lights or do whatever is required.
Praveen, I think his main concern is about how it will impact the person's health, human's health. So, lot of protocols
you mean to say
and
the
way...
wireless networks
Yeah.
and... okay. Sumit, you want to take that question?
So the spectrum on which we operate for our wireless communications all. So most of our Wi-Fi is on 2.4 gigahertz, which is not, let's say, health-threatening range or something. It's all neutral to the health aspects. It's similar to the sunlights and the radiations coming on the solar panels, wherein you have lights, you have the radiations which are good for health, there are radiations which are bad for health. As far as the wireless technology adoption is concerned, whatever technology that we are working on in terms of Wi-Fi zones and all, those are not the problematic zones. I hope that answers your query.
And if you look at it further ahead, if you look at LiFi, LiFi is going to work between 380 nanometers to 780 nanometers, which is a visible spectrum. So it's in no way going to affect the human body in any way because it is visible spectrum. Any other questions? Well, this was a very interesting session, and if we don't have questions, we only assume that many of you haven't really understood a lot of the stuff that was discussed here.
I have a question. Can the panelist ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
My question is again with that, you know, the interesting technology of voice. So, will it properly recognize the person, right? And that is controllable? I mean, security protocols, everything is there?
Yeah, it's...
And for example, to be a funnier aspect, in a home, you can define this particular voice is for wife and this particular voice is for somebody else. You know what I mean?
I understand. It's the
so you'll not have conflict of
spouse
interest.
limitation feature that you're looking for. I mean, it's a command that's given to the system, right? Irrespective of who gives it, right? It's kind of like pressing a button on a keypad, right? Depends on who press it, it's still going to do the same thing, right? The AI that we're looking into is having a more natural speech environment, in the sense that we don't have to memorize phrases, right, to give the system, but rather it being a more it being delivered in a more natural way, I guess. So that's the objective behind artificial intelligence, is to ultimately, I guess the goal would be to have a natural conversation, right, with these devices, the way that maybe you and I are talking right now. That's the ultimate goal. So I believe with NLP, Anaphora, we're slowly starting to get there.
Let me extend your question to the next level. So if I'm at home, I prefer dim light, yellow color. If my wife is at home, she prefers more bright and white color. If we both are at home, the preference is what she prefers.
That's true.
Okay. Now, can my lighting control system
by default.
adopt to that?
She's the boss.
Adapt to that. So yeah, it can. It's again based on the collection of the data. Now, let's take a journey on that aspect. I have a profile created in the system. My wife has a profile created in the system. Now, based on how I use light and my wife use light, the system knows which profile has got the priority.
Okay.
Now, based on that, it will automatically say that if both the profiles are in the house,
That
let's give the
doesn't need
priority to
a
the wife.
AI.
Yeah,
That doesn't need AI.
No, no, so-
Simple intelligence is enough.
It's called marriage.
Yeah. So that's basically self-learning kind of a system wherein system knows which profile should be given the priority. That's one of the aspects. The other example that I would like to take or discuss is that we talk about the hospitals and the medical care systems. The light has an impact on the patient's well-being. If we have that data, that if a patient has a BP problem or heart problem, which color of light or which intensity of the light would make more sense to the patient, then we have the systems which can adopt to the implementation of that. It's just that if we can extend our data reach or collection of the data in sense that this medical condition, let's use this kind of an environment, we can go into that kind of a model. So this is the actual implementation of your AIs and your IoT implementation.
Well, I think that kind of summarizes this whole discussion, and I think if we don't have any more questions, then we will close this panel discussion. And oh, there is one question now. Yeah.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I'm Abhijit. I'm representing Elka Systems. My question, I actually have two questions. Since most of our solution which we discussed, creating better environments, human-centric lighting, this all mostly applies to the commercial space or office space. Since we have a lot of projects, it's mostly residential, more than 50% I guess. So for residential, still the end client or the user, building owner, is still sticking with the standalone lighting control system with a basic light sensor and a occupancy sensor basically. That's PAR or microwave sensor. So what is the value proposition you're giving to a building owner or an end user that he can go for a more intelligent system? For as far as I have seen, in this market, people are really happy with the system they are using. It does work. But what is the value proposition which can give to the end user or the building owner or property owner so that they can look for upgradation of the system, which is more intelligent, which is IoT focused, where they can collect data and make better decisions? This is my first question. And the second question is...
Can we do it one by one?
It's all right, yeah.
Anybody who wants to take the question?
I want to add something into that because I
You're
know
adding to the
where it's
question
coming
only.
from. Because on the other side, I run a network of lighting stores, and where I'm partner with Lutron and many of other systems, and we set up a control display area. So the feedback what I have from the villa owners and residential apartment owners is basically they hardly use anything other than basic dimming and max to an extent a curtain control. And that also mostly in a living room and a master bedroom. Rest of the areas is not being used properly. And most of the development which had, the first, one of the first control systems installed by Pacific Control was in Emirates Sales. And 90% of the villas, it's not working. And all over the places, Barari, you take it everywhere, the system has been installed, large system like Crestone and all, it's been installed, but hardly anybody uses. I think as a society, we had to educate and understand the society level, people have to be more, allowed to understand the use of the system and make use of the data. Now, I've seen the biggies in tech, in Trilux and Lutron and even Zen Control doesn't want to take data into cloud and don't want to deal with it. But big data is the fuel. Data is the new currency. Still nobody want to handle it because they don't know how to handle it. Then how you expect an end user to handle it properly. So we had to have basic symbols, way to bring that solution into a layman's, perspective. Anybody in a home, let it be a maid in the home, to get the data in a simpler manner. Then people will take the advantage and take the, data wisely and make the changes in their daily lives. That's my perspective.
I agree to that. And coming back to your question, which was there, today it's all possible. It's only whether you actually use it. For example, your simple iPhone. I still, after using iPhone for almost 10 years, I still never use Siri. I still prefer to, call it. Only recently that I have started using Siri because my phone gets connected to the car, and while driving, it's difficult to really do the thing, and that's when I actually use Siri. And for some reason, it's working fantastic. Because initially I tried it once or twice and it really didn't work. So technology has to adapt. I mean, you have to adapt to technology as well. So it is not just that, you kind of have all of this AC controls and everything. You can do, it's all possible. Home automation is, in fact, advanced much more than commercial IoT lighting.
In fact, it is too early for IoT to be implemented for residential standalone villas and all. I think it's too early. Gated community, yes, up to a certain degree, we may be successful in showing some tangible results. But I fully agree with you. If you are an independent villa owner and somebody tells you to buy an IoT-based system, you'll be paying through your nose and not see any benefit. So wait for the technology to evolve. At the end of the day, IoT has just been around for a few years and it's yet to evolve. But the first evolution that we see has shown tangible results, good results in commercial buildings and spaces.
I think one of the other aspects for adoption in the residential sector is, see, as far as the technology is concerned, the technology is already there. But when we start discussing about the projects, it's not the value additions or the well-being concept that we discuss always about the budgets.
Exactly.
When we start discussing about the budgets, then all this discussion goes for a toss. I think that's the main point, wherein the shift in terms of the philosophy needs to happen, that instead of discussing the budgets at the first level, we discuss at the features levels first, and then whatever features needs to be cut down to fit it into the budget. I think that will be a better approach to go ahead with, rather than starting with the budgets first.
Maybe.
I mean, if your customer is asking you a tangible thing for the budget, saying my budget is this, as Sumit said, ask him a simple question: what is the value of his well-being?
True. That's true.
Maybe I can also add something to that. I think your question is right, but let's say in Europe it's already established. What you are talking, it's about more smart home systems that are already existing. It's more home automation, and I think maybe you are familiar with the protocol KNX AEB. I think this is more suited towards residential projects for private owners. It's more a niche. But this IoT, it's first, I think we're talking about that on an industrial level, and this is more or less the niche. But we have already established technologies for that. For instance, the KNX.
What was your second question?
No, on the first question itself, let's this gentleman has said that at present we are not still advanced as an industry to offer something valuable to the residential clients.
It is not that it is not available, okay? Home automation, in fact, much more advanced than commercial IoT-based platforms. It has been there for a couple of years. It is who can afford it and who utilizes it the best way they want it. Everything that is possible is available from a home owner's perspective. But yes, if you are looking at a developer to install it and give it to a customer might not need it. For example, I'm a lighting consultant. I have basic automation in all my apartments. Okay, I don't like too much of complications done. As long as I'm able to turn on the lights and dim up and create a certain scene, that's good enough. So every individual has a different requirement, you know. So one is whether you really need it, and if you need it and if you have the money to spend for it, of course it's available. Whether you use it later, that's a different story.
Yeah, as an industry, we should think like, do we have enough value proposition so that the client will be interested to invest for this? So, and
Yes, maybe I can answer this. I think in order to convince a client, especially a residential owner, to use a proper lighting control system, it's really to have him understand why he needs it. It's not only a product which is fancy, or it's a show off for the people who are coming to see his house. If we can actually simulate figures to the client and show him really how much he can benefit from lighting control systems, and to have it, of course, linked with other systems, really, I think it will be from, let's say, 10 times trials, it will be maybe 8 times a success. But if you only tell him you need a lighting control system and this is the cost of it, and this is how much you have to pay, without showing him the benefits and without simulating it with a simple, sometimes in dialogues you can show different lighting scenarios, you can show him some videos, you can show him really things that can also figures of how much he can save in bills. All these facts, if they are given in the right way as a consultant, then really it can be a success. But only specifying it for the benefit of having it in the house, then this is why most people don't really use the system, because they don't know the benefit of it.
thank you. The second question was,
Go on.
are you hearing? Is it?
Yeah,
on? Yeah. The second question is, this is a personal curious question. In the apartment buildings or the residential building, we are having the lighting control for the common area and for the apartments. It's quite, if I'm not wrong, it's different now. It's not an integrated system. So do you see anything which does manage the tenants area lighting control and both the common area? Do you see anything coming up in or existing in this area?
Why would you want the developer to control your apartment's lighting?
Exactly.
It's private.
Yeah, it's private, but I'm saying we are having standalone system for each flat.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, do we have anything, a system which we can give to the tenants all together?
You mean to say one centralized lighting control system with which
it doesn't mean that
each apartment can be separately controlled?
Yeah, separately controlled, but it's a single system end of the day.
Yeah, so Praveen, we are already doing this aspect. If you just go and visit zencontrol.com, we have a tenant system in that. So just to give an example on that, so you have your lighting control implemented across your building. If it is a co-work or an apartment or anything, any other workspace, you can define your territories of that tenant, and based on that, the control of that tenant would be local to that tenant only. Yeah, the building owner has the administrative account, but then there will be triggers wherein the building owner cannot and let's say change it anytime.
Yes.
That feature is already available and we are doing it.
Would you feel safe in such an apartment, in such a building where your administrative control or master control is with somebody else, would you feel safe about it?
No, no.
No, since you've raised this question, because another thing that crops up is, suppose if that centralized system fails, how many apartments are going to fail at the same time?
Yeah, for that matter, we are using the centralized system in other areas. For example, BMS is a centralized system. We are using Wi-Fi as a central system. Structural cable is as a centralized system.
Correct, but it's not life.
I'll try to bring a different aspect to it. So earlier, so this is based to your first query about the cloud adoption and all. So earlier we were using the Exchange servers and all for our mails and all. Gradually the industry moves towards the Gmails and the Microsoft. At this point in time, the complete data, complete server is being maintained by those companies. Okay, but still we have confidence that nobody is playing with our data set. It's the same concept onto the tenant implementation as well, wherein you are making sure that your administrator, the building administrator, is not able to control your territory in that area, but still maintaining the overall building health. So that's still doable. Yeah. It's not that somebody else is taking control of your life. It's not that.
Partially correct. If we look at the facade lighting or landscape lighting, it's perfect.
Yeah.
But the gentleman is referring to his own private
tenant part of it.
No, it's still possible as long as the administrator does not have the rights to override.
Exactly.
And it is password protected.
Exactly.
And this is possible, and so already available.
It's possible. The fact is, if the system failed,
well,
will it take down
as good as the power going off. The power is also central, you know, as good as that. So, I mean, today I think all lighting management systems are as robust as your DBs, so you're not expecting them to fail.
There's also a liability issue, right? If I'm the building owner and I include lighting control in the public areas and inside the apartment, which the tenants are using. So who's responsible of the maintenance?
Yeah, but to look at your question from a different perspective, if you look at the cost of a centralized system, looking at the amount of cables that would be running across, doing apartment-wise separate lighting control system would be much cheaper than doing a centralized system, actually speaking. You know, so yes, both systems are available, but in my opinion, if I'm looking at it, if I'm doing a 3-bedroom apartment on this side, another 2-bedroom apartment this side, individually controlling them with a localized system will be much cheaper.
From practical implementation, what we have seen now, this tenant feature is more user-friendly in the co-working spaces rather than the complete residential buildings. So we have been implementing in co-working spaces, wherein one company comes and says that I need 4-seat cabin, then they extend it for 6.
Yes. In that kind of a scenario, that works very well.
Yeah, exactly.
When you have a large commercial space which is being divided into smaller spaces where lighting controls has to be implemented, there you can have a centralized system, and then you can give control to each of those individual office spaces separately.
Thank you.
All right, I think we are running out of time, and this was a wonderful session.
Yeah. On a lighter note, all these problems are basically because of the use of controls. Control is the word is making all these troubles. Let's go intelligent. That's better.
Yes, on that note, let's close the session. It was a wonderful panel, and thank you all panelists for being here. Thank you, Ellen, for joining in. Let's close the session then. Thank you very much.